Welcome in, ladies and gentlemen, to episode number 125 of Let's Go Racing with David Starr. Tyler Jones here with you. So glad to have you with us. Coming up on today's show, we'll look back at the weekend that was at Watkins Glen as William Byron dominates, getting his fifth win of 2023. Also, later on, we will look ahead to Daytona, the final race before the start of the NASCAR playoffs. We'll lay out the playoff clinching scenarios and give our picks and break down the playoff picture coming up. Also, busy news day as well. We'll have the latest on 2311 Racing and their future, Stewart-Haas, and more coming up in our news and notes segment. We'll also have our Ask David segment at the end of the show as well. David Starr is with us as always. David, no shortage of things to talk about this week. How we doing?
Man, doing great, man. Just been busy working, and man, it's been hot here in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. Temperatures have been just unbelievable hot, you know. But man, there's a lot going on in our world of auto racing today, and man, what a great race Sunday was. Unbelievable.
Yeah, I mean, that's an interesting point, Dom. David brings up a great race. They say beauty's in the eye of the beholder, right? And I hear some people complaining like, oh, it's a boring race. NASCAR needed more cautions, more excitement. Couldn't pass anybody and all this. We need to make road courses more exciting. And then, like, out of the other mouth, I hear people saying, what a beautiful race. Not many cautions, just real smooth. Everything decided on the track. NASCAR didn't get in the way. I mean, Dom, I enjoyed the race. I'll admit it wasn't the most exciting, but I personally like not having the cautions at the end of stage breaks, letting it keep going, the flow, race under 2 hours and everything. I was a fan. What did you take away from Sunday?
Oh, I think so too, right? You're going to ask 40 people, they're going to give you 40 different answers on what they thought of the Go Bowling at the Glen race, but it was a good race. I thought we saw a lot of passing. We saw one caution flag. We saw some good restarts when those did happen at the start of the race rather, and at the restart with 25 laps to go. And it was good racing. If you want to just take a raw product, there was some good passing all along the racetrack, and I get it. They strung out, and I remember telling somebody, if this race plays out like how it did at Indianapolis, the guys starting up front are going to likely be the ones that win, barring some sort of mechanical issue, like we saw with Michael McDowell. Certainly his race to lose. Took the lead early, had the penalty on pit road, starts bouncing back from that, has the engine issue. So you started up front. You knew this race was going to run up front and have the chance to be strung out. That's what we saw on Sunday. It was definitely a repeat of the Indianapolis Grand Prix, but I know we're not going to see that this upcoming week in Daytona. We'll get into that later, but it was a nice break, Tyler, to see two races in a row go with one caution. I remember somebody tweeting out that that's the first time since the 1970s that you've had two races back to back that had only one caution.
Yeah, pretty incredible that it worked out the way it did. And I think of it this way, Dominic. It felt like an F1 race to an extent. I know that we're always comparing to F1 and F1's mark in the U.S., but you think about it, a road course race at Watkins Glen. We know F1's got a long history there. Former home of the United States Grand Prix. But, not throwing out cautions just to throw out cautions like we see, F1. It's got to be pretty serious if they're throwing out a caution. Emphasis on qualifying, tough to pass, every position matters. Like I felt like I was watching an F1 race. And if you're a fan of open wheel racing that's trying to watch NASCAR, I think that was the type of race to try to pique your interest of some sorts. That was a clean, well-run race in that regard.
Certainly. You have guys running on long green flag runs. How are they going to go on pit stops? How do they come out of that? Who's ahead of who? How many seconds can you make up? It was great racing. And David, from a historical standpoint, everybody calls me the unofficial historian, but I really think that title deserves to be with you because you really think about the sport and the history with it. David, you grew up watching a lot of these greats, and William Byron winning on Sunday, that was his 9th career win. That ties him 64th on the all-time wins list with Cotton Owens, Paul Goldsmith, and Bob Welborn. So you're in conversation with guys like that. you're starting to climb up this wins list pretty fast. He's gotten 5 of those 9 wins this year. And I mean, pretty cool, David, to see that William Byron is starting to catch some of these guys. Next up on that wins list, Clint Boyer, Donnie Allison, and Sterling Marlin.
Yeah, Donnie just went in, will be inducted into the Hall of Fame this year. But William Byron just dominated the race. It was amazing how fast and how good he was. I was just so surprised by that. William Byron's had a breakout year this year. Guy's on fire. I would have never thought I would have seen a performance from him on a road course like that, but it was impressive. And, those top 4 or 5 guys, they were so good. Denny Hamlin, AJ Allmendinger, and who's the other one?
Oh, is you have Bob Walborn, Paul Goldsmith, and Cottonelle.
No, I'm just talking about the race. I'm talking
top
about
5 this weekend.
Yeah, top 5 this
weekend. No, so that would have been William Byron, Denny Hamlin, AJ Allmendinger. I'm slipping on the other 2, Tyler. Help me out.
Yeah, it was somebody else, but man, they were so good. Their cars were pretty much equal. And man, nobody was making a mistake, and one of the things, we're used to seeing more drama on road courses, more somebody trying to outbrake the next guy and get in the corner, and they slam up against somebody else and push them out. And like Tyler said, it was really a clean race. Really not really used to seeing clean races on road courses, even though we had one at Indianapolis. But man, it was it was a good, clean race, and there was a little drama at the end where I think Austin Dillon moved Kyle Larson, and Kyle Larson repaid the favor, and there was not enough of that going on in the race. I watched the whole race. I DVR'd it and watched it later that night, but I was surprised how clean it was. I probably would have liked to seen more drama. But it was a clean race, and man, just there's really a lot of great road racers that race at the club level. It's amazing how good they are, and it was a clean, undrama race, so yeah.
It was. And William Byron getting this win, I know that he'd been through kind of a summer slump of sorts, if you want to call it that, since that Atlanta race. He had finished 24th, 14th, 21st, 35th, and 14th. Not his best stretch of the season by any means. And then he responds, getting this win at Watkins Glen in this way. I mean, what an answer, David, from that 24 team, from William Byron and Rudy Fugel. We've heard from time again, William Byron say, hey, the summer months is not their stretch. For whatever reason, traditionally speaking, they do bad in the summer. And for them to not only just end the slump, but also end it with a win, and for him to win on every style of course this year, to win at mile and a half, to win at plate races, to win on the road courses, I don't know how William Byron can't be the favorite to win this championship the rest of the way here. Heading into the playoffs with one race to go, that 24 team's the team to beat.
Well, man, you're exactly right, Tyler. He's, if you can win on those different types of racetrack, you are the favorite. I mean, I think he's the favorite for the championship in 2023. It's been a breakout year for him. It's amazing how strong he's been throughout the whole season. Like you said, he's been a little bit of a summer slump. But man, what a way to kind of end the regular season with the win at a road course going into the playoffs. You know what I mean? So it might all be coming together at the right time. Timing's right. And, we got one more race this weekend at Daytona, and then they'll start the playoffs. And, man, it looks like, they'll have a lot of momentum going into the first race of the playoff, but William Byron and that Hendrick Motorsports organization is definitely the favorite to win the championship. This theirs to lose, I would say.
With that said, Dom, looking at the regular season points playoff picture, it looks like Martin Truex Jr., barring something catastrophic happening, will be your regular season points champion. Denny Hamlin is right there as well. He's about 40 plus back. And then you got William Byron, who leads the series and wins. I mean, I'm not taking away from anything Truex or Hamlin have done. Those two have run consistently well throughout the season. But I feel like the 24 team is just on a different level. They're good everywhere. They can win whenever they need at any given time. That's the team to beat. Who's the biggest challenger, you think, to that 24 team?
I would say it's Martin Truex, but you're right. The 24 team, how can you argue against William Byron and the 24 team and how well they've run everywhere? Certainly Truex has done the same, and you can make that argument for Hamlin, but that 24 team has been just a little bit better. They are the lap leaders this year, 76 laps to Truex's just over 800 laps led. That says a lot, especially in an era where this new car has created so much parity and you have a lot of comers and goers, maybe not as much as 2022, but you still have virtually 25 guys that go out and win on any given Sunday now. And William Byron and that 24 team certainly look like the team to have the championship get beaten. They're the biggest opponent against the 24 team right now, Tyler, is themselves. And heading into the playoffs, you got to think a win at Watkins Glen, where William Byron had never won on a road course in the Cup Series prior to Sunday, has to give just some natural momentum and a great shot in the arm entering the playoffs, no matter what happens at Daytona this Sunday or Saturday.
Yeah, for sure. David, let's have you chime in here. Who's the biggest threat you think to that 24 team when it comes to winning this championship?
I mean, you look at the Gibbs cars, talk about Martin Truex Jr., Denny Hamlin. They have a lot of speed, and they've been consistently up front week in and week out. Maybe they're not knocking off the wins, but those, even look at Ty Gibbs in the 54 Cup car. I mean, it's been impressive, what this kid's doing in his freshman year of a Cup driver. It's unbelievable. But I think the Gibbs organization with their three cars have been, I might be missing somebody, but if there's somebody that can give William Byron and the Hendrick Motorsports organization a threat to challenge him in the play and the championship, I would say it's probably the Gibbs cars. You know what I mean? You look at Trackhouse with Ross Chastain and what's the teammate's name?
Daniel Suarez.
Yeah, Daniel Suarez. I mean, those guys had lots and lots of speed, and it seems like Trackhouse for some reason last, these summer months they've been a little quiet. You know what I mean? I'm surprised by that because I was thinking, man, Trackhouse, early, about halfway through the season, they looked like they were going to give William Byron and the Hendrick organization a run for their money for the championship, but they've been really quiet over the summer. Ain't really heard much about them.
They kicked off the summer in Nashville in June with that win.
Yeah.
And then, obviously SVG got that win at Chicago, but it's been kind of quiet ever since.
It really has. So I don't know. For me, I just look at the Gibbs organization. I think those cars have been consistently they've had a lot of speed week in and week out. They might not have gotten the win, for different reasons and circumstances, but it looks like the Gibbs organization will be a threat to the Hendrick organization when it comes down to the wire, I believe.
One more thing that I want to bring up this past weekend at Watkins Glen before we move on and break down the rest of the playoff picture here. Guys, I got to tell you, I was very disappointed in Michael McDowell and the Front Row Motorsports team this weekend. If there was anybody that was just as good, if not better than the 24 car, it was Michael McDowell and what they brought, what they unloaded. They were fast. They got to the front early. And then not one, but two mistakes on pit road. The team and then Michael himself going into an extra pit stall. Those mistakes that they made there, I mean, we could have easily, Dom, been talking about Michael McDowell winning back-to-back races and dominating back-to-back races, but they got their own way. Not just the team, but Michael McDowell made some mistakes. And, obviously that team's taken some huge steps in the right direction, no question about it. But the next step for them is they got to show the consistency. That was a golden opportunity that they let just go by the wayside last weekend.
It makes you wonder too, Tyler, a team that is not typically in this kind of position to be contending for wins. Yes, McDowell the last 2 years, performance has stepped up. That FRM 34 team has been in the top 10 a lot, has run top 20 virtually everywhere they go. But when you're in contention to win, you got to wonder if the pressure is getting to the pit crews. And maybe David gives some insight as a driver if you're feeling more pressure. Because we've heard drivers say in the past, racing for 20th versus racing for 10th and 5th is a whole different animal out on the racetrack. And you got to wonder, Tyler, if that's the case too with the pit crew. And when you're in contention to win, you feel that pressure. Maybe it does get to you. We saw it at Sonoma. McDowell had a really good car, could have been up there contending for the win with Martin Truex Jr., and his pit crew cost him on pit road, ultimately cost him a shot at the win. And yes, McDowell having the issue on pit road, but then not cleaning up the mistake there, if you want to call it, with the blown motor, the blown engine, and just an all-around team effort. You got to wonder if maybe the pressure has gotten to some of these guys a little bit because they're not used to this kind of pressure.
Yeah, when you think of Front Row Motorsports, and like you said, just the last couple of seasons, they've been impressive. They're just getting better and better. And man, Michael McDowell, I've always thought he was a great race car driver, given the right team, right situation. But man, Front Row Motorsports has done a phenomenal job. But it goes back again. They're not the powerhouse that we see in the Hendrick organization or Gibbs. They're getting close. I mean, they're competing for wins now, and it's understandable that their pit crew. I don't think it's equal. If you lined up organizations and their crew members and their pit crew, and I don't think we look at Front Row Motorsports as one that really stands out. You know what I mean? I think Michael's a championship type driver. I think he gets it done, even though he made a mistake. And like you said, even though Michael's capable of winning races and he's one of the best drivers out there, he's running, leading 2 races, winning one, and coming back to Watkins Glen and leading another one, having a car that could easily win the race. You just made a mistake, and maybe he just made an honest mistake, and maybe just forgot where his pit stall was. You don't know if the spotter was telling him. It's just an honest mistake, can happen to any driver. But I think that team has been impressive. There's a lot more for them to clean up before they're ready to contend for a championship. But man, I've been so impressed with that organization all year long. And, even though there were some mistakes made by the pit crew, I think, from moving forward, they'll be addressing those types of situations to make sure they can get it more competitive. I mean, because they got fast cars, they got a great race car driver, the cars drive good. They're just going to have to clean up some other stuff, and they'll get there. You know what I mean? But I don't look at them as a Hendrick or a Gibb or Penske organization. I see the pit crew making mistakes, not being as fast. But over time, they're going to correct that. You know what I mean? After those cars being as fast as they've been, winning Indy, almost winning Watkins Glen, I just see them stepping up that pit crew on pit road, and I think we'll see less mistakes in the future by Front Row Motorsports and more wins coming.
Yeah, I think so. So taking a look at the playoff standings now, William Byron with that 5th win puts him at 28 playoff points. Martin Truex in second, 3 wins with 20 playoff points. Truex, assuming he wins the regular season championship, will get 15 additional playoff points that will bump him ahead of William Byron in the official playoff standings, even if Byron wins the race. Then you got Kyle Busch, 3 wins, 17 playoff points. Denny Hamlin with 2 wins, 15 playoff points. Kyle Larson with 2 wins, 13 playoff points. Chris Buescher with 2 wins, 11 playoff points. Chastain with 1 win, 10 playoff points. Reddick with 1 win, 9 playoff points. Blaney with 1 win, and Logano with 1 win, each with 8 playoff points. Christopher Bell with 1 win, Michael McDowell with 1 win, both with 7 playoff points. Ricky Stenhouse with 1 win and 5 playoff points. Keselowski and Harvick each clinched playoff spots this last week, even though they don't have wins. Keselowski's got 3 playoff points. Kevin Harvick's got 1. So now that leaves us to the playoff bubble. Here's where things stand there. Bubba Wallace right now is the last driver in the playoff. He's got a 32-point gap. If it's just on points, Ty Gibbs and Daniel Suarez are still mathematically in contention on points by a slim margin. Ty Gibbs, 32 out. Daniel Suarez, 43 out. Everyone else, AJ Allmendinger, Alex Bowman, Chase Elliott, and others have to win in order to get in the postseason. And 17 drivers are eligible to still make the playoff with a win on Saturday night. So I know there was a lot to take in, a lot to be said. Dom, let's start with Bubba Wallace here. Bubba, I mean, he was almost crying after finishing 12th at the Glen last week. It's no secret, and Bubba will be the first to tell you, he is not a good road course racer. Last week, they did what they really needed to do to hold the serve. They lucked out with William Byron getting a win, a repeat winner, not a new first-time winner. Bubba Wallace is one of the best restrictor plate racers out there. I don't think anyone would be surprised if Bubba gets a win or if he finishes top 5 and we have a repeat winner and locks it in that final playoff spot here. I mean, this is definitely Bubba's to lose at this point.
You're not wrong on that. And when you break out on those points even further, assuming there's no new winners behind Bubba Wallace and assuming that he can get more points than Ty Gibbs and Daniel Suarez, all Bubba Wallace needs to do on Saturday night, even if he doesn't claim any stage points, 14th place will get him that magic 23 points he needs to be able to have more points than Ty Gibbs and Daniel Suarez. But again, that's assuming that there's no new winner. And it's hard to believe, Tyler. Here's a guy, Bubba Wallace. I've been high on Bubba Wallace since the very beginning. And granted, we know his attitude has gotten him in trouble. But when you look all past that and you look at the competitive fire that he has, he sounds like a champion. He talks like a champion. He talks like he's won 20 races. He conducts himself with that. And it's hard to believe this guy has not even ever made the NASCAR Cup Series playoffs. That changes Saturday night if he can get that 14th place finish or better with no new winners or goes out and wins the whole thing. But we're talking to a guy that has won 2 races already with 23-11. And Michael Jordan just doesn't give you the endorsement. Denny Hamlin's not going to give you an endorsement if they don't feel like you can go get the job done. Year 3, he needs to get the job done and make the playoffs on Saturday.
David, in Bubba Wallace's position, we mentioned 14th or better and no new winner. He locks himself in the playoff. But I don't think Bubba's worried about points. If you're Bubba Wallace, if you're that 23 team, your mind is staying up front, getting those stage points, and going out there and getting the win. If you're Bubba, you're not racing for race points. You're still racing to get this win because you could have that big 32-point gap, but it's not going to matter if Chase Elliott gets into victory lane.
Yeah, it's interesting. You'd like to be a fly on the wall at the race shop to see what the strategy is going to be. But, again, just hearing y'all speak about it, I would just think common sense tells you, hey, man, you got to go there to win. You're in Bubba Wallace's shoes, the 23-11 team. They have nothing to lose. You got to go there and try to win the race, and it'll all play out like it's supposed to. You know what I mean? But if you're racing to finish in the top 14, I don't think that's safe right now. I don't know. I think you guys are right. And you just got to go, like you said, Bubba Wallace is a phenomenal speedway racer. His cars have a lot of speed on the super speedways. You just got to go race your tail off and try to win. That's the way I see it. And, it'll play out like it'll play out, but I think any other strategy would not be the right strategy if they did that.
I know everybody's going to point to Chase Elliott as being the most likely of the 17 drivers to get to victory lane and clinch that playoff spot, but Dom, something has just been off, and I know people are going to point to him missing 7 races, and I understand that, but that team has not been clicking, has not been on the same page all season. And last week was a perfect example of that when, Denny Hamlin brought up a good point on his podcast this week, the fuel situation when Alan Gustafson tells Chase to go to the reserves for 3 laps. Everyone knows those reserves don't last 3 laps on a road course. That's just not going to work. It's not just Chase. That team, everybody's just off. It's not on the same page. Could they rally and find a way to win? Absolutely, they could. But, I mean, they got a lot of demons to get past themselves before figuring it all out and contending for a win, because they're just not on the same page at all right now.
Well, and I think you can make that argument too for all these teams that are not going to make the playoffs that were in last year. Tyler, there's 6 teams right now outside of the playoffs that made it in 2022 that are not going to make it in 2023. And certainly the biggest disappointment of all of that would have to be Chase Elliott, Alan Gustafson, and the number 9 team. This is a team that has made the Final Four, the championship 4, 3 straight years, 2020 series champion. And you see it on social media. There's a lot of people calling for the head of Alan Gustafson. I know he helped deliver the championship in 2020. A lot of fans don't like the calls that he makes with Chase Elliott, but maybe questionable calls or not, Elliott is able to make up for that on the racetrack. And you look at the season, 6 top 5s, 9 top 10s, 39 laps led. Not a typical Chase Elliott season. That is an above average season for most drivers, but that is a below average season for what Hendrick Motorsports expects and what Chase Elliott and Alan Gustafson and that entire organization expect out of themselves. They missed the playoffs. No one's going to be surprised, but they make the playoffs, Tyler. It really makes you wonder how far they could advance. They could probably get out of the round of 16 and advance to the round of 12, maybe even the round of 8, but they're just not the team they were in 2020, 2021, or even last year. This is a shell of its former self.
Yeah, it's a very good point. And the same could be said for Alex Bowman, too. He had a new crew chief this year in Blake Harris, who came over from Front Row Motorsports. And that team just hasn't been clicking at all either. And Alex missed a lot of races, when he had his injury and everything here. David, do you see the 48 or the 9 team pulling a rabbit out of their hat and figuring it out by Saturday night?
Well, you got to understand who they drive for.
Right.
I mean, Hendrick Motorsports, powerhouse team in NASCAR. Yeah, I totally agree with you guys. The 9 and the 48 cars, they're a little off this year, especially coming back from their injuries. They're a little off. Can you pinpoint, where they're off? It don't take much in any area of an organization. And because cup racing is so competitive, it's amazing that William Byron is having such a breakout year and is a favorite to win the championship, and how much speed they've had and how well they've run all year long. It's amazing that the teammates hadn't matched that. You know what I mean? But anything's possible. No matter what's happened, when you go to Daytona, anybody can win that race. Chase Elliott is a superb speedway racer, great equipment, great cars. Even though that team has been not as impressive as we're used to seeing that Hendrick Motorsports operation for all these years, they can still get it done. Alex Bowman's team can get it done, but so many of them can get it done. But all it takes is getting that one win, and there at Daytona, anything's possible. But yeah, I definitely agree with you, what y'all are talking about. Those 2 teams with that organization, it's surprising to see the mistakes and just to see them we're not used to seeing what we're seeing, you know what I mean? And it's interesting, and it's playing out in front of us for Alan to not know the, gas mileage and flipping a switch to have, a little extra gas and trying to say, hey, you got 3 more laps. Common sense tells you, man, it's interesting, it's kind of unraveling in front of us, but again, that's a strong organization. It's got so much depth. Jeff Gordon overseeing everything. I wouldn't be surprised to see a Hendrick car win the race Saturday night. But it's open to everybody. It's going to be interesting. But yes, I agree with you. Those two teams have not performed the way that we're used to seeing them. And even if one of them won Saturday night, I'm not real sure how far they would go in the playoffs.
So when we talk about dark horses, spoilers who could take one of those playoff spots, looking at guys that have won at these plate races in the past, that you got to keep in mind. Austin Cindric, former Daytona 500 champion. Justin Haley, who's a very good plate racer in his own right. Eric Almirola's won at Daytona and Talladega. Eric Jones has won at Daytona. And then there's one name, Dom, in particular. He has not had a good year at all. One of the worst seasons of his career. But his teammates been good all season long. They got speed over there. He's one of the best plate racers. And he was in this position last year where he needed to win and get in. I'm telling you right now, Dom, don't sleep on Austin Dillon.
What a season it would be if the number 3 team could right all the wrongs from that Martinsville penalty, the 75 points. They've been mired to 28th in points, 29th in points. It's not a typical Austin Dillon year. He's one of the 6 drivers that's looking on that outside looking in. He won this race last year. Had the race been range shortened and had it gone the entire distance like it did, that 3 car was out front. Now, granted, there was some luck involved, but I'd rather be lucky than good, but he is lucky and good at restricted plate races. He's won the Daytona 500. He's won the July Daytona race. Austin Dillon's a good, solid pick there, Tyler. If you're looking for a fantasy lineup or if you're into sports betting, Austin Dillon may be a good driver on your lineup.
David, there's some good potential spoilers here. We mentioned Austin Dillon, but guys that have done this before, one-win situation, there's a number of them that could find a way to pull off the upset here.
Man, just everything we're talking about, Austin Dillon, Cindric. I mean, that's what makes it going to be such an exciting race Saturday night. There's the tensions are high, you know what I mean? And there's a lot at stake. People are going to be very aggressive. It's going to be exciting to watch, that's for sure. And because, man, any like you said earlier, Tyler, I'd say, pretty much anybody has a chance of winning that race, So it's going to be interesting how it all plays out, everybody's strategies. And, you're looking at Kevin Harvick, Bubba Wallace, and the ones that are, I mean, yeah, I just think it's going to be real exciting. Hard to really pinpoint how the race is going to play out and who's going to be up there. I mean, everybody we're talking about, Austin Dillon obviously has a Daytona 500 win, was in the playoffs last year, hasn't had the season that we thought he was going to have, watching the way the 3 car ran earlier in the season. And, felt like having Kyle Busch come over and join that organization was really going to step up the number 3 car. Well, we just ain't seen the performance out of that team that we saw last year. And, but man, Daytona, anything's possible at Daytona. It's there's so many scenarios. Who knows how it's going to play out? That's why there's going to be all of us watching and everybody else in the world going to be watching to see who's going to win that race Saturday night.
Well, and David, real quick, you raced in this race 2 years ago. I remember you saying on our show how excited you were to run a Cup car at Daytona and working with Tyler Reddick there at the end, the way the cards just rolled out. Just tell us from that driver's perspective, what that was like to see all these bubble drivers, right? At that time, too, 15, 16 drivers could still have won a way into the playoffs. What was that like, being a part of that field and just being a part of that action? And how similar or different was that racing compared to other super speedway races you've been a part of?
Man, that was just such a great race. And, it was just, for me, it was just fun and exciting. And, it was just, I don't know. I loved every minute of it. One of the things from my standpoint and what I was doing, you didn't want to get in the way. There was a lot at stake. And even though I'm not a full-time Cup driver, just stepping in periodically here and there, we wanted to make sure that you didn't change the race up or but man, it was exciting, but there was definitely a lot of tension in the air and the atmosphere before the race started, and there was a lot at stake. You know what I mean? And uh, everybody knows how to super speed race, and everybody has an equal opportunity to win. And it's going to be interesting to see how it all plays out. And the only difference is I'll be watching from television, not sitting behind a steering wheel, which I'm saddened about.
Right, right. I totally get that. With that said, David, I want to ask you this. We got all these guys that are locked into the playoff heading into Saturday night. 15 guys, one spot on the line at this point here. If you're one of these Hendrick guys, like Kyle Larson or William Byron, or if you're a Gibbs guy, like let's say Truex, Hamlin, Bell, and Ty Gibbs is on the outside, Chase Elliott, Alex Bowman, these guys are on the outside. Is the marching order like you're going to do whatever it takes to get Ty Gibbs to victory lane, or Chase Elliott or Alex Bowman? Like, do you give up a win to get your teammate in the playoff if it comes down to it?
Absolutely not, man. Our job as a race car driver, every race, when they drop that green flag, there's only one thing on your mind and your organization, your team. That's to win the race, man. We race every lap, every practice, qualifying, run the race to win the race. If when it comes down to the end, and depending on where you're at, I mean, if you're drafting and helping your teammate, then that's a little bit different story. I mean, if you're bump drafting and the way the race is playing out at the end, you might, help your teammate, but man, it's every man for themselves. I mean, this is big business. We got big sponsorships. You want to win for your team. You definitely want to win for your sponsors, and you want to win for your manufacturer. I would just say no, because there's a lot at stake for everybody. You got to perform. Y'all know how the business side of our sport works. I mean, we got to make sure our sponsors are seeing a return on that investment, and their contract might be up to sign for the following couple of years or 3 years, and man, I just don't think anybody's mindset is there. I mean, it's every man for themselves. You got to take care of your team, your sponsors, your manufacturing. You got to go out there and win, even if you have a teammate. Man, you can't go in there. Well, I'm going to do everything I can to get my team. I mean, that's not a racer's mindset. You know what I mean? At the end of the race, 20 laps to go, 10 laps to go. If you have the opportunity, that maybe you're not lined up in the front, and you're going to try to help your teammate win the race, and you run second. Well, that, depending on what the circumstances are where you're at, you could probably push somebody else to win. You're probably going to push your teammate to a win, but man, when that green flag drops, every driver has one thing in mind. That's to win the race, and not that, oh yeah, I'm going to do everything I can to get my teammate in the chase. No, I don't see that happening.
Yeah, I agree. I'm with you there. With that said, let's go ahead and get some picks now. You guys know I've been on this bit for a while of picking Chase Elliott until he wins, getting the playoff. You might call this convenient timing, but I'm off the Chase Elliott train. Last week with what happened, that to me, they waved the white flag. I can't trust that 9 team to figure it out. When you can't figure out how much gas you have in the car on a road course and know how the switch works. I mean, I heard Denny say, like, even on a mile and a half track, we're lucky to get a lap off the switch. That told me everything I needed to know. I'm not picking Chase. I'll tell you, though, what I did like last week, it wasn't his strength, but he found a way to do well. They've been fast all year. Could have won at Talladega. Bubba wins the race, locks himself in the playoff. I'm going with that 23 car to get the job done. Dom, who you got?
Yeah, I guess I'm not going to go as exciting as you. You look at Daytona, you look at the 500, you look at Speedweeks. What manufacturer was the fastest? That was Ford. I think we see a Ford pulling a victory lane on Saturday night. And as much as these cool storylines would be, somebody winning their way into the playoffs, I'm going a little different route. I think we see a driver break a over 2-year winless streak, get back to victory lane. We were talking about on the show last week about not being a Bill Elliott with the owner driver role. Brad Keselowski, who has won at Daytona in July, will get that dry spell done and get to victory lane Saturday night ahead of the NASCAR playoffs. David, who you got?
Well, man, kind of like you, Dominic, I'm going to go with the Ford. And the guy's going to be the last time that he sees that green flag waving to start the race at Daytona. I'm going to pick my buddy Kevin Harvick for his final race of his awesome career. I'm going to pick Kevin Harvick to win the race Saturday night.
Man, David, we got to get Kevin in victory lane before this is all over. He's got to go out with it. We just need one. That's all we're asking for. Just one win.
Yeah, absolutely. Hopefully he can get it done at Daytona, but he'll have even if he don't get it done at Daytona, he'll have 10 or 12 more chances at it. So
yeah. And Darlington next week is one of his best tracks as well. So
absolutely.
We'll look out for that. All right, news and notes time. Plenty to get to on the news and notes front. Dom, set the scene for us. What is going on with 2311 Racing?
That is a great question. I wish I had the answer to that too, but we can try to paint a picture to what exactly is going on. We call this news notes, and I think we need to put in there in parentheses with the little 3 dots, the ellipsis, and rumors, because we really don't know what's going on right now. But speculation, and some of our sources around the NASCAR industry are telling us here on Let's Go Racing that we're going to see some major shakeups come 2024. This could include Stewart-Haas Racing selling off 2 of its charters, Denny Hamlin ultimately leaving Joe Gibbs Racing, team he has called home in the Cup Series since 2005. His entire career has been spent at this team, to driving for his own organization at 2311 Racing, to Tyler, 2311 Racing possibly swapping to Ford, with potential that executives were seen at Ford in Dearborn, Michigan, talking with executives about the possibility of swapping manufacturers in 2024. So much to unpack, Tyler. Where do we even begin?
Let's start with Denny. So Denny was speaking to the media this week, and he said, I realize I sound very similar to what Kyle Busch was saying around this time a year ago. And we all know what happened. JGR, Toyota, said they wanted to keep Kyle Busch, but ultimately they parted ways. He went to Chevrolet and went to RCR, and Ty Gibbs got promoted, and the rest is history. Now here we are. Denny Hamlin is, in a situation where he would like to stay at Joe Gibbs Racing. They would like to have him there. Toyota would like to have him there. But, if Ford is making this lucrative offer to 2311 here, and the sponsorship isn't there for Denny to make the money he wants to make, I mean, it's 2 worlds here, right? I mean, Dom, you can't be having you can't own a Ford team and drive a Toyota. That's just not going to fly. He would have no choice at that point but to go to 2311. And if they want to buy the charters, the money's there to put him in one of those cars and make it happen. I know it's all speculation, it's all rumored, it's all early at this point, but David, if I were to guess, I think that it's going to happen. I think 2311 goes to Ford, and Denny Hamlin drives for his own team to finish off his career.
Well, man, one thing about it, however it works out, it's going to be a win-win for Denny. You know what I mean? Even if he leaves Joe Gibbs Racing to go drive for his own organization, I mean, hearing that the Ford is talking with 2311, you guys, the business side of what we do in NASCAR, if you see Michael Jordan, Denny Hamlin step over to the Ford to change manufacturers, go with Ford, dude, that's a big, massive financial commitment from Ford that will benefit 2311 big time for years to come, and is Toyota willing to negotiate that to try to keep them in their stables? It's all business, comes down to dollars and cents. But driving for Denny Hamlin, for Denny to drive for his own team with Michael Jordan and all the great partners they have, there's a lot of variables. There's so many variables, Uh, is Joe Gibbs, is FedEx staying with Joe Gibbs? What's that contract look like? You know what I mean? Obviously you guys might know a little bit more about it. The restructure of Joe Gibbs Racing. They brought in, what's the name of the group that now owns a part of Joe Gibbs Racing? What's the name of it?
I know
I
you're
mean,
talking about
you
that
know,
sports group. Yes.
there's a sports group that owns, I don't know how much of the percentage they own at Joe Gibbs Racing, but things change. Is Joe Gibbs Racing willing to accommodate Denny's salary at the same level or give him a raise? I mean, there's a lot of variables, and it's a win-win for Denny no matter what happens because 2311. I mean, they are funded well. Really, probably the most funded team in NASCAR Cup racing today. So if for some reason Denny's, doesn't race for Joe Gibbs Racing, I think Denny's going to have an opportunity again to step into his own team, his own cars, and be a championship contender right from the start, And I don't think we've heard anything about Michael Jordan, Denny Hamlin, 20 to 2311 team having any difficulties bringing on major sponsorship. I mean, they're very well funded, So it's interesting to see it play out in public and to see how it's gonna turn out. But it's interesting to the manufacturers, it's interesting to see that Ford is now a player, and I know it's all speculations and rumors, but there's got to be some truth to it, or the rumors wouldn't be swirling out there. But I think Ford is very competitive, and they've been involved in auto racing for 100 years, and Ford has won their championships, their fair share of racings, and they're gonna align themselves up with the best racing team organization they can get involved with, and man, hearing what you guys are saying now, we're hearing that Stewart-Haas, I mean, it's all speculation, might be interested in selling two more charters. I mean, the perfect storm might be lining up to see it all play out like you're talking about. But I guess time will tell how it is going to play out. But I can assure you that if Ford is able to get 2311 to step over to the blue oval side, that's going to be a big deal in our sport. And it's interesting because I would say that the 2311 team would be if this all this speculations or rumor happen, I mean, I would think that would be their main team in NASCAR. 2311 with Michael Jordan, Denny Hamlin might be their number one team.
Oh yeah, I mean, you think about it. So the idea is that Denny would be in one car, and I would think they'd probably go with a young Ford driver, probably somebody like Zane Smith, who
absolutely
is viewed to be the top young driver in the Ford farm system right now. Zane's got a bright future. He's going to be a star in the sport. Then you have, I think, a rising star in Tyler Reddick. And then Bubba, who's a playoff caliber driver. Bubba's checked all the boxes he needs to. All of a sudden, that is a powerhouse. That is a force to be reckoned with. Two championship caliber drivers in Reddick and Hamlin, playoff caliber and Bubba, and then a rising rookie in Zane Smith. Watch out. Stewart-Haas's case, that's where things get interesting. They'd sell their two charters here. You got Josh Berry in one car. I would think Chase Briscoe would probably be in the other. Ryan Preece hasn't performed well. Eric Almirola's talked about retirement. They're going to be losing sponsors. You got Busch Light headed to Trackhouse. You got, of course, Smithfield is tied to Almirola there. I mean, in the Stewart-Haas case, let's go there real quick, Dom. That's a team that I think they've outstretched their resources at four teams. Like when they were in their heyday, when they were running really good, it was a 2 or 3 car operation. Tony's doing his thing with SRX and NHRA, and we know Gene's got his thing going on in F1. Like it might be best for that organization just to downsize and take that $100 million they could, invest it, and just really try to hone in there in that organization. That could actually I know downsizing doesn't sound like fun, but that might be what's best for Stewart-Haas Racing right now.
Well, look what happened with JTG Doherty Racing. They downsized, and granted, that's a much smaller scale, not as many wins and as much success as Stewart-Haas Racing, but that downsizing and focusing on one car has certainly paid off with that team. Maybe a restructure of some sort is what Stewart-Haas Racing needs, because this is not the 2014, 2017, even the 2020 team that won 9 races with Kevin Harvick.
Right, exactly. And then the Joe Gibbs element of all this. Okay, so if the 11 car's gone, if Denny takes and leaves, gets the number 11 with him, then that becomes the 18 again. We've seen Toyota has a deep farm system of drivers, but I don't know, Dom, it doesn't seem like there's an obvious pick. I know the John Hunter Nemechek has been linked to Legacy, but I would have to think Joe Gibbs would have first rights to him before Legacy would.
I would think so too. And John Hunter Nemechek seems like he would fit the bill at that organization, coming up and getting spit up and shoot out by the Cup Series program in 2020 he was with, going back to trucks, going back to Xfinity, winning all these races. I feel like it's a different John Hunter Nemechek this time around. You'd figure Joe Gibbs Racing would want something with that. The other one I could think of, Tyler, and this could be a stretch. Curious what David thinks on this one. Maybe Martin Truex Jr. is hanging around another year because maybe his brother would get one more opportunity in the Cup Series. And granted, he ran Cup full-time 10, 11 years ago with a team that ran 30th every week. But they're trying to piece together a full-time deal for Ryan Truex at Joe Gibbs Racing in 24. Maybe Ryan is in the wings for a Cup ride there at some point. It seems like the Gibbs family, the Gibbs organization really enjoys having the Truex family around.
Yeah, you're on to something there, Dominic. Anything's possible, but it's going to be interesting to see. All this speculation is exciting, really, to see how next year is going to shape up, man. It sounds like to me it's going to be probably one of the most silly seasons ever, most dramatic silly season ever, one of the things I would mention, 2311, they're building a massive, massive new race shop there in the Charlotte area, and it's supposed to be the best Taj Mahal race shop to this point. They might already be in the works. Even though they're building this Taj Mahal of a race shop, I guess they knew maybe this stuff's been going on long before the rumors got out there that they were going to a 4-team operation. And that's why they're, building a brand new state of the art facility to house 4 teams, So, but, all that was all speculation and rumors. And I think as the playoffs arrive and we start, watching the playoffs and see what's going on, we'll learn more about, what the future of next year's season looks like, but there's a lot of cool news out there, a lot of cool rumors, a lot of cool speculation that keeps everybody's interest. You know what I mean? Unbelievable. This is the first I've heard of everything today. And man, it's amazing. All the rumors and speculations out there. It's exciting, really.
One more thing, and then we'll move on. Let me ask you this, David, real quick. With Ford and 2311, it's August now, almost September, right? Isn't that a quick turnaround to go switching manufacturers in time for 2024? I know that Ford's got a brand new Mustang next year, in the next gen car anyway. But I mean, is it even possible? Can you turn around that quick and change your operation like that? That seems like a short window between now and potentially February.
Man, Tyler, you brought up a good point there. My answer would be, I don't have the answer. When you have the type of resources that Ford brings to an organization like 2311, the technology, engineering, just, when you have a manufacturer like Ford coming in to present you the number one powerhouse Ford team on the Cup level, and everything that Denny and Michael Jordan bring to the table as an organization, I think anything's possible. I think they're probably going to have some of the best people engineering wise, fabrication wise, I hear what you're saying, but I don't think that's probably going to be an issue. I don't think it's probably going to be an issue, to be honest with you, with the way these next gen race cars are. But it's possible it could be. And again, I don't have all the answers, but it's going to be interesting. You know what I mean? I think with the next gen race car and how it's the parts and pieces are bought and all that, I think it works into the hands. There is, a short period of time from today until the start of the 2024 season. But with the way you buy the parts and pieces today and not build them, I think it plays into a hand of a team changing manufacturers in the middle of the off season and being prepared to get the season kicked off, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. It does make a lot of sense. Dominic, what else we got going?
Well, NASCAR fans, well, I guess television fans in general, and people who like to watch TV or consume media will have an opportunity to get some more NASCAR into their homes. NASCAR Netflix announced on Tuesday, August 22nd, of an exclusive docuseries that's going to be following the 2023 playoffs and give exclusive access to drivers, teams, and organizations, and what that title run may look like for a team. Now, here's the cool part, Tyler. The people involved in this project have had their hands in other sports Emmy-winning products, and Dale Earnhardt Jr. is going to be an executive producer. No surprise, Ben Kennedy, top executive with NASCAR, is also involved and has his hands in this. Anytime there's something with NASCAR and innovation and something different, tend to hear Ben Kennedy and Dale Earnhardt Jr. names like that involved with a project like this. This docuseries, Tyler, is set to air in early 2024, just ahead of the Daytona 500.
Man, we've only been wanting this for how many years now? I mean, with all the success of Drive to Survive, the F1 Netflix series, and last year we saw USA Network did kind of their version with Race to the Championship, and it kind of flopped. It wasn't as authentic as the F1 show, and it was on cable TV that nobody watches. Now you put this on Netflix, 5-part series. You got good people involved here. David, I'm excited. Finally something to try to reach a new audience here. Give them a glimpse of our sport in movie documentary form, like what F1 does. This is a big win. About time.
Absolutely, Tyler. It's about time. And the documentary on F1 racing and that sport. Man, I have never seen an episode of it, but man, the people I meet on airplanes, the people that live in my neighborhood, people that been to our racing school, man, just all the different people that you come face to face with over time. It's amazing how many that know you're associated with NASCAR. Man, people will share with you how much they love the F1 documentary. I've never seen it, but man, people love what F1 did. And you guys know more about that than I do, but I can assure you that a lot of people in my neighborhood that know nothing or aren't fans of any kind of auto racing love this F1 documentary. I think, what's it called? Driven?
Drive to Survive.
Drive to Survive. It's amazing, man. And if NASCAR could do something very similar and really get in depth with the teams, the drivers, however that F1 Drive to Survive documentary was, if NASCAR could do the same thing, man, it would sure. There's no doubt in my mind it would bring new eyeballs, new fans to our sport, and I think. Hearing everything y'all are saying, I think it's a win-win for all of us. I think it's going to be great for our sport.
Well, Dominic, I like too the emphasis on the playoff and the championship hunt. I mean, we don't, I think, talk about it enough how intense and how tough this playoff system is and how much it takes out of you here. I mean, every week matters. You never know what's going to happen week to week. The old point system, we had times where guys clinched championship before we even got to the final race. I mean, this is something else. I'm glad to see that viewers are going to get an inside glimpse of just how tough this is. I think the playoff is the perfect platform for this type of story to be told.
I agree 100%. I think to take that a step further, this new, well, it's not new. It's been now 20 seasons. We've had a playoff format, and NASCAR trying to be more like a ball and stick sport in that perspective. This stuff is made for TV. You can call it excitement, artificial excitement, whatever you want to call it. It is exciting. It is awesome to tune in and think, okay, 17 drivers could clinch a playoff spot this weekend. And then as you advance 16 races or 10 races, 16 drivers, 12 drivers, 8, and then 4 for a winner take all thing. It is certainly made for TV. It is certainly made for entertainment. It is very entertaining. And that behind the scenes access is going to be pretty cool. I was reading too, Tyler, that we're going to see perspective from drivers like away from the track and that personal kind of things that they do away and how they decompress. It's going to be pretty cool to see what that insight looks like. And I think fans are going to really appreciate that too. I think all of us are going to be able to appreciate, and everybody having that wall and that guard up just a little bit lower than what it typically would be with a series like this.
Time for our final segment. Ask David. We're asking you to submit questions to us on a Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, facebook.com/Starr Podcast, Twitter @Starr Podcast, and by email, davidstarrpodcast@gmail.com. Couple questions in the inbox this week. And our first question in the inbox comes from Clint. And Clint wants to know, David, with the new cameras in the rear windshield of the next-gen car, how important is the spotter still to the race car driver?
Oh, still important. Even though that camera's incredible, most drivers are focused what's going on in front of us, not what's happening behind us. So even though the camera is unbelievable, the quality, the clarity is incredible. You're focused on trying to pass the guy in front of you and not what's going on behind you. So the spotter is still just as important as he was if we had our original rear view mirror in the race car. So even though the camera quality is incredible, the technology with all that is over the top. The clarity is unbelievable. Your spotter will be and will always be important as they ever were, no matter what kind of camera you have in the race car.
Who's been some of your favorite spotters or some of the guys you've worked with over the years, David?
Oh man, I've had so many of them, but man, there's been some great ones, and not only do I'm a guy that I'm driving my tail off, focus on what's going on, and but man, Randy, there's a guy that spotted for me, and I was with Jimmy Means. His name was Randy. I forget Randy's last name, but I think he still spots for one of the Cup guys today. He was phenomenal, and there's just been so many great spotters, and it's amazing, having such a great spotter that races with you and kind of, from a bird's eye view helps you. They're focused on the strategies of your competitors. They're watching somebody else's line to see, if they pick up time. It just, it clears you when you pass somebody or you get past to just give you the information you need to race as hard as you race. But man, one of the key success of the organization is having a great spotter and man, for every race team out there.
Yeah, that's a great point. With those spotters, I don't know how you feel, David. I don't know if you've done any spotting before or not, but I feel like there would be a lot of pressure with that job. I mean, that's intense. We talk about being in the race car or crew chief. Some of these calls here. I mean, spotting. You're talking life or death. I mean, these are tough situations of what these spotters are doing, and the timing and how quick you got to react to. That's a lot of pressure being a spotter.
Dude, it's so intense, and man, a great spotter is everything, man. Every dime they're paid is worth it. Especially for Daytona Saturday night. I mean, the spotters are incredible. The type of information they give you, it's almost like you can't race without them. They're so good, and it's just amazing. yeah, it just there's so much information they give you, good information that really makes a difference at how the race plays out, you know. And but man, a great spotter is priceless, man. If you you know, everyone's important to their driver, you know, and a lot of, you know, we talk about driver and crew chief pairs that have been together for years. There's spotters and drivers have been together for a long time, you know, but just a really key element to the success of a racing team is everybody's spotter, man. Their role is so important.
Dominic, if I let you choose any role in a NASCAR team other than a driver and an owner, if you could be on the crew, what spot you taking? You're going to be the crew chief, you're going to be the spotter, the jack man, gas man. What are you choosing if you could choose one? Can't hear you, Dom.
Oh, my bad. There we go. I would say picking the crew chief.
There you go. Turn your mic on next time you talk.
Yeah,
Come on now.
That's strike two tonight, guys. That is strike two for Dominic. But I would pick the crew chief role because I think it'd be really cool to be just immersed in the technology of the car. You have to know under the hood. You have to know the strengths and weaknesses of everybody on your crew and how to play to that and how to get the best out of them. You have to be monitoring the driver. You have to be adapting to what the driver is doing behind the wheel and monitoring strategy. I feel like there would be a lot of balance of logistics and trying to get a lot figured out and doing the best for your team. And there's a lot of weight and pressure on that position. You are essentially the quarterback of the team. And I feel like I would be up for a challenge like that, Tyler.
David, if you weren't driving the car, what would you want to be of any of those positions on the pit crew?
Man, that's a great question, you know. Yeah, I like kind of what Dominic. I'd like to be the crew chief. You know, I mean, there's so many. I mean, you are the quarterback of the organization. I mean, logistics on the competition side, strategy, budgets, people. I mean, there's so many areas of expertise that you have to, you know, bring together to make it all work. Uh, you know, making sure, you know, just golly, putting together a great team of men and women that can work together and under adversity, under the extreme pressure that the sport brings to you. You know, you want people that under pressure can think and do flawlessly, you know, their job 110%. I mean, putting a racing team together with the right people. I mean, just the crew chief. There's so many, you know, the knowledge of working with the engineer, taking the engineering mind and put it, you know, and utilizing everything, all the tools in the toolbox per se, and just building a safe, fast race car that can win races. It's just, man, these guys, I mean, these crew chiefs, these cup teams, man. I can assure you that there's some brilliant minds and sharp people that are in these roles.
The crew chief, as fun as that would be, I'm not a math guy. I don't know if I need to be the crew chief in making those type of decisions. Although I'll say this much. I wouldn't be leaving my driver out with 3 laps on the switch if I'm the crew chief. I'm not going to make that decision.
I want to say, you know, I want to tell you that, you know, in the past, you know, a lot of times the engineering's responsibility, the engineer or engineers' responsibility is to keep up with the fuel mileage, you know, of the race. You know what I mean? You know, so yeah, the crew chief obviously has the, you know, they control it all. They're responsible for everything, but it's usually the engineers that keep up with the fuel mileage and not the crew chief. So,
okay.
You know, yeah, absolutely.
Okay. I think I'd like to be the gas man, you know. No, you don't get to wear an iron apron anywhere else, you know. I mean, like that.
That's great, man.
Next question coming in from Steve. Steve wants to know, David, how often do you guys see NASCAR fans in public where you live, supporting shirts, NASCAR hats, etc.?
Man, that's a great question, Steve. Man, we see a lot of race fans in the Dallas-Fort Worth area and Houston. When we're out and about eating lunch, going to dinners, or going to a movie, or on a date with, it's very interesting because, just it'd be weird places in the mall or at a restaurant or at an auto supply store, and somebody say, "Hey, man, do you race cars?" Like, yeah, I mean, it's very interesting, and all the race fans that we have in Texas, I just see people wearing, just a collared business shirt that has the Texas Motor Speedway or the SMI Tracks logo on it, and I see a lot of Indianapolis shirts, with the little the Indy logo on their shirts, and lots of T-shirts. But man, what a great question! Just it's kind of weird. I think we were at Six Flags one time, and my oldest son, Dad, the guy has your shirt on over there. It's like, no, yeah. So somebody was wearing a David Starr Racing, an old one, you know what I mean? And it looked pretty good still, which kind of a weird thing that happens. But hey, and all the drivers, everybody competes at the level we compete at. I mean, we're so fortunate, all of us, you guys, myself, to be part of such a great sport that has a huge following. You know what I mean? And I don't know, certain parts of the country you go to, man. When you fly in to this city or this city, if you're there for a sponsor meeting or doing an appearance or something, some cities I see more race apparel than others, but it's kind of interesting. But there's a lot of race fans in the United States. It's amazing, man, to me.
I love when I see somebody that's wearing something of a driver with a slogan or something. Like if I see somebody wearing Dale Jr. stuff, I'm going to go out of my way to tell them, Dale, yeah. Or, if I see somebody wearing Dale Sr. stuff, I'll go out of my way to tell them, raise hell, praise Dale. Like that's what I love seeing. And it happens more often than people think. The other thing, Dom, I bet you can relate to this. I'm noticing a lot of people around our age are taking in like the NASCAR retro vibe of sorts of, you're seeing more even from non-NASCAR fans, the throwback jackets to some of the stuff of yesteryear from, the 70s, 80s, and 90s. That type of stuff is trendy, and people are wearing, you might see somebody wearing a classic old school Elliott Sadler M&M's jacket or a Dale Earnhardt #3. I mean, and maybe even to a club or something. It's pretty cool. Like I love it. It happens more often than I think people realize, Tom.
I think so. I think there's something to be said about that style. And I can tell you guys from experience, I have a 1994, 1995 Jeff Bodine Excite Batteries jacket. I think you've seen me wear it, Tyler. It's got the black, and one sleeve is a light blue. The other sleeve is like a pinkish color, like kind of like what his car looked like. And it's got some checkered flags on it. I will say, out of everything I've ever worn in my life, I've never gotten so many compliments as when I've wore that jacket before in public. And it's cool out here, Tyler. You don't see a lot of NASCAR fans, but I am pleasantly surprised. Once every few weeks, you'll see somebody here in Northwest New Mexico wearing a Jeff Gordon shirt or some sort of throwback. I saw a Casey Mears 42 shirt a while back. I thought that was pretty cool and obscure. You don't see that a lot, but I'm definitely pleasantly surprised. I think there are more fans out here than I realize.
And let me mention one more thing. What I see a lot of apparel as well. I say apparel T-shirts. I see a lot of sprint car racing, late model dirt car apparel shirts. There's a lot of auto racing, dirt track, short track, sprint car, dirt late model. There's a lot of apparel out there, and I love seeing that. I love when people are proud to back a World of Outlaw sprint car driver or a dirt late model driver. It's really cool. I love seeing that, and a lot of times when I see that, I'll have the opportunity, I'll say, hey man, is you big dirt guy, you follow dirt racing, and you really meet people when you ask them about their T-shirts. Man, it's pretty cool, and a lot of them know the racer. That's who they support, or their family members. It's just, I think it's cool. But I see a lot of that, a lot of sprint car and dirt car shirts out there that people wearing in public. It's pretty cool.
So along those lines, funny story, David. I don't know if you know this guy or not. Sprint car driver Brady Bacon. He's from my hometown of Broken Arrow, outside of Tulsa. And every once in a while in the Tulsa area, I see a Brady Bacon T-shirt or bumper sticker on a car or something. And my mind's like, whoa, these people know Brady Bacon? He's a 3-time USAC champion. I mean, you got to be, even if you're from Broken Arrow and everything, I mean, you got to be a diehard to know who Brady Bacon is. And the fact that, like, I see it every now and then, people wearing Brady Bacon gear, I'm like, okay, this person, this is a real one. This is a real fan here, if they're wearing Brady Bacon stuff.
No, I love it, man. Man, just the grassroots, and USAC's a big deal. I mean, it's a big following in USAC sprint cars, and USAC itself. I mean, that's a huge racing series, and man, it's cool that the fans back their driver. You know what I mean? And it's cool to see that. It's cool to see the bumper stickers. It's cool to see them the T-shirts. But this Brady guy must be pretty damn good. You see quite often. That's pretty neat.
Yeah, 3-time champion.
Yeah.
He's been in the Chili Bowl and all the big races. Wow. We'll have to get Brady on the show one of these days or something.
Absolutely.
With that, guys, we will sign off. We'll get out of here. Great show today. We had so much to talk about, a lot of news to get to. Final race before the playoffs. We'll be back next week with our full playoff preview, as we'll know the 16 drivers competing for the NASCAR Cup Series Championship. We will break that down next week. Look forward to that. Big thanks to you, the listener, for joining us, for hanging out here on this edition of Let's Go Racing. As always, subscribe to the show on Apple, Spotify, Google Podcasts, and YouTube. Leave us a 5-star review, or don't leave us one at all. Hit the like button as well, and we certainly would appreciate it. Also, follow us on social media, facebook.com/Starr Podcast, Twitter @Starr Podcast, and by email, davidstarpodcast@gmail.com. That's where you can find all of us there. Before we go real quick, we're on the road. What's going on this week? Dom, starting with you.
I'll be home in Grants, New Mexico, spending time with the family, and it's going to be nice to be able to watch Daytona from the couch. Certainly wish I was going to be there. Been there once to the July Daytona race. Yes, now it's an August race, but nonetheless going to be a good time to watch from home, and looking forward to that. How about you guys?
I'll be enjoying the weekend at home, but don't worry, the Summer of Jones continues next week as I'll be in the Oklahoma City area for Labor Day weekend. So that's what I'm up to. David, what's going on with you? You're not in Daytona, but I know you're excited to be watching on Saturday night.
Yeah, no doubt about it, man. Just busy working. I got one sponsor meeting on Thursday afternoon, and then just continue to working on our race cars at Team Texas, getting ready for our next racing school. And we'll be tuned in this weekend from Daytona, man. It's going to be an exciting weekend of racing, that's for sure.
No doubt about it. We'll put the checkered flag out on this episode. For David Starr, Dominic Alagon, I'm Tyler Jones. Thanks so long. It's been another edition of Let's Go Racing. We'll see you next week.